Kurt, give us some insight into some of the rationale behind this.
Yeah, well, there's an obvious pro here, which is that this would probably help Facebook cut down on the potential for viral misinformation. So you may recall that in the fall, the company took a lot of heat because it came out and said that its policy was that it would not fact-check any political ads from candidates or their campaigns. And in particular, there were people worried that some of the presidential candidates might try to use this to their advantage. And so if you think about putting a temporary blackout on advertising, that would at the very least take Facebook off the hook from being the one to spread misinformation for these candidates as in the form of an advertisement.
So how serious is this, Kurt? I mean, this seems a little late to the game. I mean, we're here almost mid-July. Is there a significant amount of ad space here that has already been sort of bought on Facebook? And what would sort of be the effect if this were to go into effect, say, today? How much money does Facebook lose?
Well, I don't really think there's any business risk, to be honest with you, because if this were even to be rolled out, it would just be for those last couple days right before the election. I think in the past 90 days or so, President Trump and Joe Biden have spent a combined around $29 million on Facebook ads. That's over the last 3 months, right? So this is not a material financial issue for the company. What I think it does is, and we've seen this in other countries, right? In the UK, for example, there's a blackout around media coverage and advertising. I think there's just a real opportunity here for Facebook to simply try and step out of its own way in some ways, and again, not be the one that is going to spread this kind of misinformation, at the very least through the form of an advertisement.
And of course, advertising is front and center as we're entering July. The boycott is very real for Facebook at the moment in terms of advertisers pulling away because they want more to be done in terms of hate speech, in terms of misinformation. And earlier this week, we knew that Mark Zuckerberg, the CEO, Cheryl Sambo, meeting with civil rights leaders. And it felt that meeting was criticized to a certain extent, Kurt, because they didn't come out against hate speech or misinformation enough. Interestingly, of course, it was only last week, that we spoke to the VP for Global Affairs and Communications. That's Nick Clegg. Take a quick listen.
To be absolutely clear, we do not profit from hate. We have no incentive to have hate on our platform. We don't like it. Crucially, our users don't like it. Users, we know this from the surveys that we conduct with users, they don't like to see hateful, inflammatory content on their news feed. And of course, advertisers, they've made quite clear, don't like it either. It's not a question of whether one is for or against hate. Everybody is against hate. It is, what do you do about it?
So it's what they do about it. And we heard earlier in the week, Kurt, from Cheryl Sambo finally making a post saying they have to get better on hateful content. How has this week been for Facebook in terms of trying to quieten down some of the criticism and try and react to some of it?
Well, it has not been great. A few days ago, an independent third-party auditor came out with a long-awaited civil rights audit of the company. It had been in the works for 2 years, and it was pretty scathing. And it basically said that while Facebook did have some of these policies in place, in some cases it failed to actually enforce them, and it specifically called out some posts by President Trump at the end of May where he was talking about mail-in ballots, and the auditor said, hey, this is an example of Facebook not enforcing its own policy. So that was on top of, obviously, this ad boycott we've been talking about. I don't think that this is the kind of thing that Facebook can simply make one or two even small tweaks to change. This is a really long problem they've been dealing with for years now, and we're just seeing it come to a head at probably an unfortunate time for the company, obviously, with the election just a few months away.